So this has been a much requested video. It's my 3-year ownership update for this 2021 Jeep Wrangler 4xe Sahara. This is one of the first 4xes off the lot when it first came out, and I've had a great experience with it so far. I'm gonna touch on some of the hang-ups, some of the cons in this video, just because I feel like that's what people are looking for here. But I just want to say, as an overall summary, I've loved this thing. It's been so much fun. It's a great car to have, or Jeep, and it's been very capable, and it's met my needs in every way. Firstly, starting off with a powertrain, because that's what sets this thing apart. So what's powering this is the normal 4-cylinder that you'd see in a base Wrangler, but what they did was they attached a hybrid system to it with a battery behind me under the seats. So what you end up with is a Jeep that produces 375 horsepower and 470 pound-feet of torque, which those power numbers below the 2 other engine options out of the water. So I think that's really what makes the difference here, and that's why I picked this, not even necessarily for the plug-in hybrid capabilities, which are just a plus. The other thing to note, that's a lot of power, but this thing does weigh over 5,000 pounds. I believe 51 to 5,200 pounds. So this is a heavy vehicle, and those power numbers are definitely needed to get it going off the line. One of the big advantages of that weight, though, if you've ever driven like another Wrangler, just one of the base ones without the 4xe powertrain, I think what you'll notice a bit is it's a bit jumpy when you hit bumps, especially on the highway. And the batteries sit low enough, they bring the center of gravity of this car down a bit from the normal Jeep Wranglers with the standard powertrains. And so what that does is it does improve ride quality a bit. It does improve handling a bit. And overall, I think the drive is a bit nicer thanks to that added weight. This thing does have some pickup. I'll throw up the car and driver 0 to 60 numbers up on the screen here. But if you put this into 4-wheel drive, it does have some pretty good pickup, and it's definitely fun. It's got good pickup for a Wrangler. I wouldn't say that this is a fast vehicle by any means. Another advantage to the plug-in hybrid system, so if you're someone who has access to charging at home and you're able to plug in, this thing will give you 24, 25 miles of range, I'd say, in real life experience on average. And for a lot of people, that's more than enough for their daily commute to work or wherever they're going. And then you plug in, and if you have level 2 charging, within 2 hours, you're fully charged. In my experience, when I had access to level 2 charging, I pretty much never got gas. And then, of course, the other advantage is when you're doing those longer trips, you still have an internal combustion engine, and you don't have to go stop at some charging station for 30, 40 minutes and plan your route around that. You can just use gas, and it's a great powertrain with the gas. There's no horsepower or torque reduction. Your gas motor will still send power to the electric motor as well, so you do have the full power of this powertrain even if you're not charging, which is great. And of course, the other thing to remember is that there is the federal EV tax credits, and some states have tax credits as well, which can make this thing really, really cheap just because it has that plug-in hybrid powertrain. So for me, there's a lot of talk EVs. I think plug-in hybrids are the future. This thing has convinced me, just because it balances the practicality of a gas motor with some of the efficiency and power advantages of the electric powertrain. So overall, I like it. One of the big gripes I have is the power delay switching between electric and gas. So when you're going slow, even if you don't have a full charge, this thing will act like a normal hybrid, and it'll be creeping along in fully electric. But when you step on the gas, if you're in electric and you step on the gas, there is a significant lag before that gas power comes on. So you don't have access to all that power all the time. There's 3-4 seconds of you having the pedal down where it's trying to figure out what gear to go into and how to switch it over. That's pretty annoying. I think that's one of my main gripes with the powertrain. And I'd also add, everything's been covered under warranty and I haven't had to pay out of pocket, but this thing has had to go through several repairs. There was something up with the fuel system. I think they changed something with the battery management system as well. There was a recall on that. And then when I first had this, I had the death wobble issue, and it took 4 to 5 months to get that part in and fix it. And that part mostly fixed the death wobble, so I'm assuming the new generation of the Wrangler has that extra steering component included, I hope. But without it, I mean, once you hit above 60 miles an hour, if you hit a bump on the highway, you get that death wobble, which is not a pleasant experience whatsoever. And that brings me to my next point, which is highway driving. I think if you're someone who's kind of cruising around town, or you do a lot of off-roading, something like that, this is an amazing car. But if you're regularly driving above 70 miles an hour, I would think twice about it. Like I said, of all the Wranglers, the 4xe is going to drive the nicest on the highway just because of that extra weight, and it's a little more composed when you hit bumps. But, and I don't want to get, I know there's gonna be a million people in the comments saying, well, I drive it on the highway, and like, I do too. I think it's, it's fine. It's just, if you're someone who's commuting a lot on the highway, that's just something to think about. Now, another like sneaky advantage of this electric powertrain is, of course, the Wrangler, the 4xe, has regen braking. And so what does that mean? Well, you don't really have to replace your brakes as often. I've never had to, neither the pads or the rotors, just because we're using regen braking most of the time, and the car, you don't have to put it into that one pedal mode to get the regen like you do with a Tesla, for example. The car will automatically modulate between regen braking for most stops, as long as you're kind of feathering the pedal, and then if you're doing hard braking, it'll switch over to the actual brakes. But that kind of helps you save a little bit on maintenance as well. Of course, the fun factor of the Jeep has been great. The roof comes off, the doors come off. I will say, so I have the hard top, and I know some people are concerned sometimes about leaking issues or something like that. I haven't had any issues like that. This thing's been fantastic. I haven't had any noise or leaking or anything like that. I think the one thing to consider, if you're not planning on taking the entire roof off all the time, I think the electric operated roof is something to consider, just because it is a little annoying to be pulling panels off and putting them back on, and Jeep's done a good job making that as easy as it possibly can be. It's still, a process that's going to take you a few minutes, and you got to store the panels in the trunk or in a garage somewhere. So depending on your use case, if you're someone who's going to be pulling the entire thing off, do not get the electric roof, because from what I understand, it's basically impossible to pull that whole thing off. But if you're someone who's planning on just popping the 2 front panels like I have here, I would strongly consider getting the electric operated roof. I think it's worth it. The other thing to get, the auto 4-wheel drive is a good option as well. It's just easier when it's snowing or it's raining and traction's a little not so great. It's easier to just pop that in for daily driving. If this is just an off-road vehicle for you, then you probably don't need it. I think ultimately, thanks to the federal tax credits as well as some states which offer credits as well, this is an amazing car to lease. Jeep also has their maintenance program that comes with the leases, and that covers all your repairs for the 3 years, which is awesome. I've had a great experience with my Jeep dealers that I've been using. So that's something to consider. I don't know, and besides the recalls and some of the couple of small minor issues that I've had, I haven't had anything big break to justify necessarily what I'm about to say, but I don't know if I would own this car out of warranty. I'm certainly returning this when my lease is up, and that's purely just, there have been some recalls, there have been some issues. This is new tech for Jeep and Fiat Chrysler at large, and that company does not have the greatest reputation for quality in the first place. So I don't know how much I would trust this hybrid system for too much longer, but again, I haven't had any issues, so take that with a grain of salt, and that's kind of just my personal opinion. But I would be hesitant to be purchasing this outright. I think the lease is just too good of a deal. You're already in a situation where the Wrangler, it has really low depreciation, so lease prices are amazing, and then you add the tax credit on top of that, and you can get some really, really incredible deals. I think one of the main things that you appreciate immediately about these Wrangler interiors, and that's largely the same for the refreshed version, which just came out this year as well, is how many buttons there are, especially compared to a lot of other modern cars today. You've got all the switches you could ever want here. They're all rubberized and weatherproofed, and they look rugged, and it's cool. You got your window controls in the center, which is always, a hallmark of the Wranglers. And of course, all your vents here. I think they did a good job with this. Everything's held up super well. It's a bit dirty right now. I did not clean the car before this video, but all the materials have held up super well, including the leather on the seats. Nothing has kind of worn down in the 3 years that I've had this. I really like this material they have on the dash, on the Sahara, with the white stitching. It's obviously not real leather, but it looks nice. It feels great. And I think, again, this is another thing that's just been happening a lot recently, is automakers cheaping out on kind of the materials on the dashboard. And that's not the case here. This stuff looks nice and it extends within your view. Another thing I want to talk about is the sound system. So the Wrangler 4xe, when I purchased it, came standard with the Alpine sound system. So there's a big subwoofer in the trunk, and then upgraded speakers around here. You got 2 here, and then the cool ones are the ones up in the roof back there. It does a really good job. I really like having the sound coming behind me from the roof. I think it sounds great. It's not the best sound system that I've heard in a car, but I think it does the job. And of course, that sub makes any music you're playing very punchy and sounds great with the roofs and doors off. So quickly, just to touch on fuel economy, in my opinion, one of the main reasons to get a 4xe is actually a lot of the powertrain benefits, from power to handling, as well as that EV tax credit, of course. But this is a hybrid, so let's talk fuel economy. It hasn't been super great, and I have not owned a normal Wrangler with a normal powertrain, so I'm not sure what the real world fuel economy of those is. Let me know down in the comments. But if we go to my fuel economy screen here, which also, I really like this dashboard. The screens are all super great. A lot of great details. So coming on to the fuel economy screen, we can see I'm averaging 19.8 right now. I have done quite a bit of all electric charging recently, so I'd say just on the gas power alone, I'm averaging closer between 17 to 19 miles to the gallon, and that's with probably 75% city driving, 25% highway driving. I have seen it get up to 23, 24 miles to the gallon on the highway. Again, this is all without charging. If you're charging regularly, I think it does the calculation where electric power is like 99 miles to the gallon or something like that. But that's what I'm getting. I'm assuming it's a bit better than the normal Wrangler, but again, I think the weight of this car combined with just the boxy shape, do not buy this expecting to get good fuel economy. So I want to just quickly talk about 2 mods that I did to the car that I think helped. Firstly, the rear glass swing gate mechanism. When I first got the car, that thing creaked like crazy. A lot of creaking. Pretty much every bump you hit, you'd have like this really annoying creaking noise, and it wasn't. I tried cleaning it off. I tried a bunch of things. Nothing worked. What ended up working was this basically stickers strip. I'm blanking on the name. I'll have it linked in the description. You put it on the top of the swing gate where the metal meets the rubber on the glass, and that completely solved the issue for me. Highly recommend doing that if you end up having a creaking, squeaking noise in the back of your Jeep. The other piece I did was replacing the big old antenna, which this isn't an issue on the new one. I believe they got rid of the big metal antenna, but on the 21s, that antenna was still there. So I just replaced that with like a black plastic one, which I'll also have linked in the description. It's worked great. It's helps protect your paint, especially when you're going through car washes or heavy wind or something like that. That way the metal's not hitting the paintwork. One of the main annoyances I've had with the hybrid system in this car has been something that comes up called fuel and oil refresh mode. And basically, if you think about it, with these plug-in hybrids, the oil, your fuel might be sitting there for extended periods of time. It collects moisture just because you're not using it if the car is in fully electric mode, which makes sense. However, there's a YouTube channel that did a really good job covering this when the car first came out. And again, like, take this all with a grain of salt. This is specifically for the 2021 models. I don't know if they fixed this on the new ones. I'll have to do some more research. But on the launch model of the 4xe, this one in particular, you had an issue where I have the car fully charged, and once you get to like those spring or fall temperatures where it's like 40 to 50 degrees, something called fuel and oil refresh mode turns on every time you start the car. Now, what's annoying about this, firstly, it runs the engine, so you're no longer running on battery power, even if you've charged the car. It's not going to be running in fully electric. It holds the engine at 2,000 RPMs, and what you end up with is you're just burning gas in this fuel and oil refresh mode. So not only are you not in electric mode, but you're burning way more gas than you would be just driving on the engine because it's in this mode. It also doesn't do auto start stop. It doesn't turn off when you're slowing down like you normally would in hybrid. So super annoying. I mean, it's not a simple thing. It really affected the experience. I haven't had this happen in a while because, you know, it's been pretty warm recently. But again, in the spring and fall time when the temperatures are kind of in that in-between zone, this is happening pretty often. There was a software update that was released a while ago that was supposed to fix it. In my experience, it might have gotten a little bit better, but it still happens. And again, I'll link to the video because this YouTube channel did a pretty good job going over it. There's not really a way that people found to make it go away. The only solution seems to be like driving for 60, 70 miles and getting the fluids going and really warming it up. But okay, the next time you start the car after that, maybe it won't do it, but it's going to be doing it again pretty soon. If you're doing any short trips between 5 to 10 miles or something like that, you're gonna be having this issue. So next I want to talk about some must-have packages on this vehicle. Some of the things that I feel like you really should be speccing it with. I already talked about kind of the auto sunshade. That's not a must-have, but I think if you're someone who's buying this thinking that you're getting a car that you can easily turn into like a convertible type of experience, I think that's really important, just because the roof panels are as easy as they can get, probably, but they take up a lot of room in your trunk. It's going to take you a few extra minutes. When you go park somewhere, you're either leaving the seats in the sun or you have to put them on, take them back off again. So depending on how you view yourself using the Jeep, you should probably spec that. The other things, the LED light package in the front is really awesome. I think it makes this Jeep look so much better. Jeep did an incredible job redesigning the JL Wrangler. I think they stuck to the original DNA of this vehicle, but the LED lights are one of those things that really makes it stand out with the signature lighting with like the little circles around the headlights. I think it just looks really good, and they're pretty good headlights as well. So definitely a lot better than those base lights that they're putting on those. So I think the LED headlights are huge. Also, if you're doing the LED taillights, the LED taillights come with the blind spot detection, which it works super well. I really like the big triangles that you get in the mirrors. I think it's very well executed on this Jeep. Very, very well done. So that's another must-have package. I think, you know, both for the blind spot system as well as just overall safety, people can see your taillights better. It's simple. So I think that's That's another must-have package. The cold weather pack, which is the heated steering wheel, heated seats, it's also great. I really love the heated steering wheel in this car. In a lot of cars it's a bit weak. In here they did a really good job with this one. It heats up really nice. Especially when you have the doors off, you have the roof off in the fall or something, it's a little chilly. Great feature to have. Keeps you warm, keeps your hands warm. I really like it. So let's talk powertrain. Like I said, I like the hybrid system in this car. I think between the two modes, fully electric or running with the 4-cylinder, I prefer the fully electric in this thing. Even though the electric motors don't produce that much juice, I'm running it in full electric right now. It's just the 4-cylinder, I really don't like the 4-cylinder in the Wrangler. It's insane turbo lag. It's not even that fuel efficient. Doesn't have a lot of power. The transmission's constantly searching for gears when you're accelerating quickly. I don't like the 4-cylinder powertrain in here. The turbo lag is definitely the worst part. It's absolutely horrible. And that's why, if I'm recommending a powertrain, I think the 4xe is a good way to go. I mean, like I've already said, you have the tax credits, you have the slight boost in fuel efficiency, you have the major increase in power, you have the better ride quality. It is really heavy, but overall I think that's the better system to go with. The 4-cylinder just doesn't do it for me. Jeep could benefit from making a new powertrain there. I really, really don't like this engine. So I brought up the death wobble issue that I had earlier. I'm driving on the highway right now. We're above that 60 mile an hour limit where the death wobble used to happen. And that extra part that they put on this thing, which took several months to get, it works. The steering's fine. I'm driving down the highway comfortably. Obviously, it's a Wrangler. There's a bit of give in the center of the steering wheel. This is not a performance car, but overall, it soaks up the bumps as you'd expect a modern car to soak up the bumps. I'm not having those steering wobbling issues anymore. So it's a low bar, but they fixed it. I think just coming to an overall verdict here, I've never been a big Jeep off-roader guy. I got this Jeep because I was getting a great price on it. I thought it was a cool car. I thought it'd be fun. And it's lived up to all of that. This thing has done everything I've asked it to do, from parallel parking in the city to carrying skis, carrying big IKEA boxes, carrying a bunch of friends, making long trips, long drives. And it's done all of those things really well while still being a really fun vehicle with a lot of personality. It's very unique. And I think it really stands out in a good way. So overall, I give this thing a great rating. Again, I went over some of the gripes, including some of the recall issues I've had, the death wobble issue, as well as some of the gripes I have with the 4-cylinder component of this powertrain. But overall, this is a great package. Again, wouldn't own it out of warranty, but this thing is done really well, and really no major complaints. If you're thinking about leasing one of these, go for it. It's a great choice. I think when you're going to the non-4xe versions, pricing's pretty steep on these Wranglers nowadays, and I'd have a hard time recommending it. But if you can get yourself a nice lease deal with that federal tax credit, I think it's definitely the way to go. You're not going to regret it.